Hello everyone, welcome back to Ace Wisdom. They didn't think you'd rise. They thought breaking you would be the end of it. They thought your silence meant surrender. They thought ghosting you was the last move they'd ever have to make. They thought wrong, because while they've been pretending you're irrelevant, you've been building in the dark. They expected you to collapse. Instead, you evolved. And today, we're starting a brand new chapter in this war between avoidance and accountability. Welcome to Volume 5 of the most unapologetic, emotionally savage breakup series on YouTube. This is Episode 33, and if you've been rocking with us through the past 4 volumes of this Avoidant X saga, then you already know. We don't do fluff. We don't do just focus on yourself platitudes. We do truth. We do power. We do raw, unfiltered elevation, and in Volume 5, we're taking it deeper than ever. Week 1, you're healing, they're watching. Let that hit. Because while you're piecing yourself back together, learning to breathe without begging, learning to love without losing yourself, learning to grow without needing permission, they're still watching, and not out of care, not out of support, but out of fear. Because when you level up after heartbreak, when you stop chasing, stop waiting, stop playing the role of the emotionally available doormat, your avoidant ex starts to feel something they ran from the entire relationship: accountability. And that's what this episode is about. We're breaking down the 5 emotional grenades that explode in their psyche once you start moving different. Not when you pretend, not when you post for validation, but when you genuinely outgrow them, because there's a huge difference between looking healed and being healed. And once that internal shift happens in you, once you stop wanting their presence more than your peace, the dynamic flips. They start chasing closure. They start wondering what happened. They start feeling the silence they once weaponized. The worst prison is not physical. It's watching someone you once controlled evolve beyond your reach. Unknown. Now, real talk. If you're new to this series, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications, because we're dropping heat every single week in Volume 5. We're talking red pill reality, psychology-backed truths, and cold-blooded insight into the avoidant ex dynamic. And if you've been here since Volume 1, you already know the vibes. The energy, unapologetic. The tone, confrontational. Because you didn't go through all that pain just to play nice now. You didn't cry in the dark, question your worth, or battle anxiety just to stay small. You're here because you want to understand what your glow-up really does to them. You're here because you feel the shift. You're not crying over them anymore. You're calculating. You're not wondering if they'll come back. You're wondering why you ever tolerated so little in the first place. Let me make something clear. They're not watching because they miss you. They're watching because they never thought you'd get back up. They thought your self-worth was permanently tied to their approval. They thought ghosting you was power. They thought your silence meant weakness. But what they didn't know is that silence becomes dangerous when it turns into discipline. See, people don't expect you to evolve. They expect you to react. They expect you to spiral, to beg, to stalk, to chase. They want the satisfaction of thinking, yeah, they'll never get over me. But then something happens. You stop giving a damn. You stop wondering if they've seen your story. You stop rehearsing what you'd say if they came back. And that quiet detachment, it stings, because avoidants don't fear being hated. They fear being forgotten. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. Elie Wiesel. So the second you genuinely stop caring, the second you stop orbiting their world, waiting for breadcrumbs, you become the one that got away, not because they lost you, but because they never really had you to begin with. And now, they're seeing you become everything they didn't believe you could be. Now stick with me here, because by the end of this episode you'll know exactly why your elevation feels like rejection to them, why they'll start reaching out in subtle, strategic, manipulative ways, and why your healing feels like karma they can't escape. This video is going to hit nerves. It's going to shake the illusions you've carried. It's going to show you just how powerful your silence, your peace, and your progress actually are. But I've got a challenge for you. Before we go deeper, before I drop the secret mantra in key point 4, I want you to comment this right now. My healing is their karma. Type it, claim it, pin it to your chest like armor, because the version of you that tolerated breadcrumbs is done. You're not healing quietly anymore. You're healing loudly. You're healing in a way that's undeniable, unstoppable, and unavailable to anything that doesn't match your elevation. And if you're really about that next level life, hit that join button and become a channel member. The membership link is in the description. Get bonus content, exclusive live Q&As, early episode drops, and behind-the-scenes breakdowns of exactly how to dismantle avoidant dynamics and reclaim your emotional power. Because this isn't just entertainment, it's emotional strategy. So here we go, episode 33, 5 truths, 5 punches to the ego, 5 moments that make your avoidant ex realize they played themselves. Ready? Let's get into it. Stay focused. Thing 1. They realize you don't need their closure anymore. The first thing that hits your avoidant ex when you level up, they realize you don't need their closure anymore. And that wrecks them in silence. Because for them, closure was never about clarity. It was about control. Let me explain. Avoidant exes love loose ends. They don't want clean endings. They want emotional access. They want that trapdoor permanently cracked so they can slide back into your world whenever it benefits them. That's why they ghost. That's why they disappear mid-conversation. That's why they suddenly pull away right after intimacy. They don't want to deal with the emotional weight of accountability. They don't want to face the wreckage they leave behind. But they do want the option of reappearing once you've done the emotional cleanup for them. Ghosting is the lazy man's exit strategy, but it's also a bet that you'll be waiting. Anonymous. Here's the sick part. Avoidants are banking on the idea that you can't move on without closure, that you'll obsess over the why, that you'll spiral into overthinking, that you'll blame yourself. They want to remain the unfinished chapter in your story, because as long as you're emotionally anchored to their absence, they still hold the power. But when you start healing, when you start leveling up, when your attention shifts inward instead of outward, you stop needing them to explain what they broke. You stop analyzing the maybe if I'd said this. You stop playing detective in their disappearing act. You stop fantasizing about running into them just to get closure. And once you do that, you slam the door shut on their emotional loophole. You'll never get closure from the person who hurt you. That's your job now. Vienna Ferian, LMFT. And here's what's wild. Your avoidant ex feels that shift, even if you haven't said a word. They notice that your posts are different, less curated, more radiant. They notice that you're not checking their stories. They notice that you haven't sent that just checking in message. At first they think you're playing games. They wait for the bluff to break, but when the silence stays silent, they panic, because now they have to face the one thing they never prepared for, being irrelevant. And for an avoidant, irrelevance is worse than being hated, because hatred still means connection, still means energy, still means they matter. But when you truly detach, when you stop searching for closure because you've already given it to yourself, they realize they're no longer the center of your emotional orbit. They're just a past event, a chapter you outgrew, a shadow that doesn't follow you anymore. That's the first emotional hit they take when you level up. You stop chasing clarity from chaos. You stop seeking peace from the person who shattered it. You stop needing their voice to validate your healing. And once they realize you're not just gone, you're gone with peace. That's when the regret creeps in. That's when the what-ifs start spinning in their head. That's when they realize they ended it, sure, but you closed it. And nothing hits an avoidant harder than knowing the person they discarded doesn't miss them anymore. Now let's go deeper. Thing 2 is where their silent jealousy kicks in, and it's going to hit even harder. Stay with me. Thing 2, they see you becoming who they thought you never would be. Let's talk about the second gut punch your avoidant ex takes when you level up. They see you becoming who they never thought you could be. And no, I'm not just talking about looks. I'm talking about energy, presence, confidence, peace. Because let's be honest, while you were with them, they made subtle digs about your potential. They minimized your dreams. They threw backhanded compliments at your glow. They acted indifferent when you shared your goals. Why? Because your growth threatened their control. Avoidants don't consciously say, I need to keep them small. But energetically, they're uncomfortable with partners who shine too brightly. Why? Because deep down, they don't feel emotionally equipped to match that light. Some people aren't intimidated by your power. They're intimidated by your potential to realize it. Unknown. When you were stuck in self-doubt, self-blame, and emotional neediness, they felt safe. Not safe in love, safe in superiority, because your overgiving made them feel like they were in control, like you were the one trying to catch up. But once you stop begging, once you stop proving, once you start redirecting all that love, time, and energy back into yourself, you start becoming the person you were always meant to be, the version of you they subconsciously tried to suppress. And here's the punch. They see it happening in real time. Your body's changing, your energy's magnetic, you're dressing sharper, smiling deeper, surrounded by better people, setting boundaries like a boss, creating, posting, moving differently. You're no longer chasing attention, you're commanding it, and it eats at them because you're becoming the partner they always claimed they wanted, but couldn't handle when it was actually in front of them. And now they have to sit back and watch you level up. Without them, that's what really burns. Because let's be honest, when you were emotionally available, loyal, ready to build something solid, they couldn't value it. They mistook that availability for weakness. They thought, they'll always be around. They thought the version of you that needed them would last forever. But people evolve, and pain speeds that process up like nothing else. The person who walks out of the fire is never the same as the one who walked in. Stoic wisdom. And now? They're watching the evolution they never believed in. They're watching you walk in rooms with power. They're watching others get close to what they once had total access to. They're watching strangers appreciate you in ways they never could. And deep down, they know you were never the problem. They just didn't know how to handle someone real. And now that person is too evolved to look back. They might not say it. They might even double down and pretend they're unbothered. But silence doesn't mean peace, because avoidants feel deeply. They just process slowly, and by the time they realize what they had, you're too far gone. Not out of spite, not out of bitterness, but out of alignment. You grew. They stayed stuck. And now they're seeing the proof all over your life. The life they thought you'd never have without them. That's thing 2. You're becoming undeniable, and the person who once made you feel not enough is now painfully aware that you were always too much for their comfort zone. Now brace yourself, because thing 3, that's when your absence starts rewriting their entire narrative. Let's get into it. Thing 3. Your absence starts to rewrite the story they told themselves about you. Let's get into the third emotional blow that rocks your avoidant ex once you level up. Your absence starts to rewrite the story they told themselves about you. See, avoidants have one powerful weapon after a breakup: delusion. They spin stories to protect their ego, to avoid shame, to avoid guilt, to avoid taking a long, hard look in the mirror and admitting, "I sabotaged something real." So what do they do instead? They create a narrative that makes them the victim. They tell themselves, "You were too intense, too emotional, too demanding, too clingy, too much of something," because if they paint you as the problem, then they never have to deal with the truth of what they ran from. People will rewrite the past just to live with themselves in the present. Psychology, truth. So after the breakup, they go around acting calm, unbothered, justified, even superior. They might even start dating someone else, just to validate the lie that you were the issue. They need to prove to themselves and to others that walking away was the right call. But here's where it all starts to fall apart. Your absence. Because the more distance you create, the more inconsistencies start showing up in their mental script. You're not texting, you're not posting thirst traps. You're not stalking their socials or sending dramatic messages. You're not playing the hurt and obsessed ex role they were counting on. Instead, you're glowing, leveling up, smiling, unreachable, and that disrupts their entire storyline. Because now they have to ask themselves, if they were really the needy one, why aren't they chasing me? If they were so insecure, why do they look more confident than ever? If I was the prize, why does it feel like they won the breakup? This is when cognitive dissonance kicks in. Cognitive dissonance is what happens when your brain is holding two conflicting beliefs, like, "I left them because they were wrong for me," versus, "But now they're doing better without me." That mental clash hurts. It forces your avoidant ex to start questioning their own decisions. They thought they were escaping drama. Now they're haunted by your peace. They thought they were leaving behind someone too emotional. Now they see someone emotionally unbothered. They thought they'd find better. Now they're secretly comparing everyone to you and coming up short. This is why your absence is so powerful, because it doesn't just create space, it creates contrast, and contrast is what exposes the lie. They're not comparing you to a fantasy anymore, they're comparing you to reality, and reality is starting to whisper, "You messed up." They won't say it, they won't admit it, but trust me, they feel it. Because when someone has to keep rewriting history to make themselves look like the hero, they were never at peace with the truth. And now, that absence, your quiet, graceful distance, is forcing them to face what they've been running from. You weren't the villain, you were the lesson. And here's where it gets even better. Thing 4 is when the comparison trap begins. When the people they're dating now start reminding them, they let go of something rare. Stick with me, this one's personal. Thing 4, everyone they meet reminds them of what they let go. Let's talk about thing 4, the part they never saw coming. Everyone they meet now reminds them of you, but not in a sweet, sentimental, "I hope they're doing well" kind of way. No, in a haunting, sick-to-their-stomach kind of way. Because now they're out here trying to recreate the connection they once ran from, and all they're finding is copies with no soul. You were real, you were deep, you were loyal, emotionally available, invested and all in, and now they're dating people who are emotionally hollow, surface level, pretty profiles, empty substance, people who want the vibes, the validation, the dopamine rush, but none of the depth you brought effortlessly. At first they love the distraction, the newness, the chase, but it fades fast, because once the excitement dies down, they're left comparing, and no one stacks up. When you've tasted depth, you stop craving shallow, unknown. And that's when your avoidant ex starts feeling it in the gut. They let go of something rare. Let's be real, You weren't perfect, nobody is, but what you gave them, unmatched. The patience, the consistency, the way you remembered the little things, the way you forgave them way too many times, the way you saw the broken parts of them and loved them anyway. And now, they're with someone who doesn't ask how they're really feeling, someone who doesn't see through the mask, someone who doesn't understand the weight they carry or the fears they hide. You did, but here's the kicker. They don't just miss you, they miss how they felt around you, because when you were in their life, they had a safe space they didn't know how to value. They had access to someone who actually saw them, and now they're surrounded by people who only see the surface. It takes emotional maturity to realize the person you pushed away was your peace, self-healing wisdom. So they start circling back, not always directly, sometimes through random likes, story views, or accidental texts. Sometimes they reach out just to check in. Sometimes they don't say a word, but you feel their energy lingering. Why? Because comparison is torture. And once you've experienced something real, everything fake starts to feel unbearable. Here's the brutal truth. They didn't think they were letting go of someone irreplaceable. They thought they were creating space for something better, but better never came, because you were already the best they'd ever known, and now they're stuck with shallow connections and a slow burning regret they can't admit out loud. So here's your challenge. If you've made it this far and you feel this in your soul, comment below this video with the secret mantra, "They'll never find another me." Be the first one to comment it and I'll pin it. Say it like you mean it, because you weren't just another ex. You were a mirror, a healer, a rare kind of energy they'll chase in everyone else and never find again. And now, thing 5 is the kill shot. The final realization that you're not just gone, you're out of reach. Thing 5, they realize you're not just gone, you're unreachable. Now here it is, the final hit, the knockout blow, the thing they thought would never happen. You're not just gone, you're unreachable now. Let that sink in, because that's what finally breaks them. See, avoidants are fueled by fantasy. They live in maybe someday. They love the illusion that you're still on standby, that if they ever get bored, lonely, or slightly healed, they could just circle back and find you still emotionally available. They thought time was on their side. They thought detaching from you would be temporary. They thought you'd always pick up, always reply, always leave the door cracked. But healing changed that, and now that door is sealed shut. The worst thing you can do to someone who thought they'd always have access to you is evolve past their reach. Anonymous. And the worst part, they feel it. They feel the distance, not just physically, but energetically. They sense that you've moved on, not out of spite, but out of alignment. And nothing is more terrifying to an avoidant than knowing you've genuinely let go, because it means they no longer hold any emotional leverage. It means the cycle is broken. It means their ego can't feed on your attention anymore. It means their safety net is gone. And you want to know the real reason this hit so hard? Because they waited too long. They delayed the apology. They avoided the accountability. They postponed the conversation that might have saved it. They chose silence, thinking they could come back whenever they felt like it. But while they were taking their sweet time, you changed, you leveled up, you glowed up, you became emotionally unavailable to anyone who's not on your frequency. Now when they think about coming back, it's not hope they feel, it's fear. Fear that someone else is holding you now. Fear that your energy is being matched, not manipulated. Fear that they're watching your life from the outside. And they're not even welcome in the comments anymore, because you're gone. Not physically, but emotionally gone. And that kind of distance? Permanent. Closure is when you accept the apology you never got, then build a life so powerful they wouldn't even recognize you in it. Stoic reminder. This is where their spiral begins. They scroll through old messages. They replay old moments. They stare at your name and type messages they never send. They consider reaching out, then realize it won't land the same. Because you're not waiting, you're not hoping, you're not frozen in time anymore. You moved on and up. And here's what they never expected. You didn't just become hard to reach, you became unavailable by design, because you now require effort, consistency, presence, accountability, all the things they ran from. So now they're stuck watching from a distance, knowing full well they had access to the most loyal version of you, and they blew it. No more fantasy, no more control, no more entry. You didn't disappear, you elevated, and now they're blocked by your growth. That's the final hit. That's the full 5. And if you felt every one of them in your soul, then this glow-up season is yours. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because Volume 5 is just getting started. Join the channel membership using the link in the description for exclusive bonus content, deep dives, and member-only tools. And don't forget to comment the mantra, "They'll never find another me." First one pinned. This is your moment. They're watching, and you're rising. Let's keep going. That's it. That's the 5. The 5 emotional wrecking balls that hit your avoidant ex when they realize you're not broken, you're not waiting, you're not the same, you're healed, you're rising, you're unreachable. And the truth is, they never expected you to survive without them. They never expected you to grow into this version of yourself. They counted on the fact that you'd stay stuck, obsessed, chasing, second-guessing your worth because they couldn't see it. But now, you've become the one that got away, not because you vanished, but because you outgrew their dysfunction. You don't rise by proving your worth to the people who didn't recognize it. You rise by becoming undeniable. Alpha energy. So let this episode be your confirmation. You don't need their attention. You own their regret. If this hit you in the gut, heart, or soul, don't let it stop here. Subscribe for more unapologetic, emotionally savage content all throughout Volume 5. Turn on notifications so you never miss another drop. This series is only getting more intense. Join the channel membership using the link in the video description for exclusive deep dives, live Q&As, and bonus content that doesn't make it to YouTube. And I want you to do one last thing right now. Drop the secret mantra in the comments. They'll never find another me. The first person to comment it gets pinned. Say it. Claim it. Let the algorithm, your ex, and your own damn subconscious hear you loud and clear. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. And now, you're healing, you're glowing, you're rising, and yeah, they're watching. See you in the next episode.